Hey guys, I see the questions about the impromptu lineups in version 3.4 keep creeping up. Why do people all of a sudden play this with Mccuria? Wouldn't be Arena better instead of Regulus in the Paper Heron lineup? What are the nuances? What is it that I absolutely have to know? And in this video today, we're gonna figure all of this stuff out. So first of all, let's talk about what would technically be the best impromptu lineup in version 3.4. That would of course be you remove Regulus from the Paper Heron lineup and you slot in Arena. You play this with double sustain with both 2 Fairy and Arena. That right here on your screen is technically speaking the best possible impromptu lineup you can build in version 3.4. That is correct. But you can now already see a problem right here. That a very big thing in version 3.4 is that we are in a double impromptu lineup metagame. If you play both 2 Fairy and Arena in the same team, then you will not make use of this pretty cool and very strong double impromptu metagame, right? Because yeah, your other impromptu lineup would suffer from not having a viable sustain in their lineup. That is why I put Arena together with Barcelona and I play 2 Fairy together with Paper Heron. Now I see team compositions out there that play the Paper Heron lineup without Anali. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is something that you should not do, because Paper Heron and Anali, they are the partners in crime for a reason. They belong together and they should be played together. If you would not play Anali together with Paper Heron, then yeah, you lose a lot of viability that Paper Heron has. Right? Don't get me wrong. It would not mean this team would then all of a sudden be unplayable or Paper Heron would not be strong. No, Paper Heron is completely busted out of the wazoo. Like, no matter in what possible impromptu lineup you would play her. You can build the impromptu, as long as you have impromptu characters together paired with Paper Heron, it is gonna work and it is gonna be strong, right? But that is not what we are about. We aim for efficiency, right? And we want to make this as good as possible, right? Needless to explain, I guess. And that is only possible if you play these two together, because both excel at accumulating a lot of inspiration. That is what makes these characters so incredibly busted. And when you now play them together, everything gets completely out of control, right? Because of the impromptu lineup being about accumulating a lot of inspiration as much as possible. And they will only accomplish that if they are actually played together. Okay, now comes the big question. Yeah, I just explained what is going on with Arena, right? Okay, there's another thing. As I said, like nowadays there are rosters that come from people testing shit out, and they put Mccuria with her Euphoria update into this lineup as well. And yeah, that is totally perfectly fine, because look, you accumulate enough inspiration via Paper Heron and Anali anyways, right? You wouldn't necessarily need here a third character or even a fourth character like Regulus, like Voyager, like Arena, that would also accumulate inspiration. Paper Heron and Anali, they get the job done fine. And then you have this critical hit rate increase from Mccuria, which is very, very beneficial, because the impromptu lineup attacks a whole lot and every hit profits from this crit rate increase. That is why it is super, super efficient and very, very strong. Definitely a viable option. Now, here's the kicker. When we look at Paper Heron's kit and also at her portraits, which are also pretty nuts, then you will realize that Paper Heron profits from an inspiration accumulation overflow. Paper Heron converts this overflow into additional damage. That is a huge part of her kit and a big reason why she has such a high and tremendous amount of damage output. I can show you this by looking at her portraits together with you guys really quickly. Here, this is her portrait number 1 and number 2. Look at portrait number 1. There you can see that for each overflow of inspiration of the impromptu incantations, the additional damage caused by those impromptu incantations is like increased thanks to her portrait number 2, right? But that's the point. If the impromptu incantations, if the inspiration overflows, Paper Heron converts this into additional damage, so nothing goes to waste, you know? The tremendous amount of inspiration that Paper Heron and Anna Lee accumulate together, they do not get lost, as it would otherwise be the case if you do not play Paper Heron, right? Big reason as to why she's so incredibly busted. And now it comes the kicker, right? Yeah, of course, Mccuria is totally fine, totally viable, super good. It would never be a mistake to play her, but you want to make your inspiration overflow as much as you possibly can. That increases your damage output more than anything else would. And this is why I would recommend to put a character into this lineup with Paper Heron that also helps with inspiration accumulation. It overflows more and it will deal more damage because of that. Now this is a little bit of nitpicking, right? And yeah, a little bit min-maxing, going overboard, you might say. It is also not totally wrong to say that, right? Because look, if you put a character like Regulus or Voyager or someone, or even Kibarina in there, right? Like these characters, they do not accumulate so much inspiration that it would really cause the overflow to go like completely out of control. Anna Lee and Paper Heron already do this, so you could argue that Regulus is a little bit overkill here. I wouldn't blame you for that, I wouldn't argue with that. And then you can play Mccuria, and I mean, we can still be friends if you do that, no problem. So before I end this video off, let's take a look into the portraits here for Paper Heron one more time. You might be interested in that topic, so why not go over them, right? You see here portrait number 1. It would increase your basic damage output, let me say it like that. Good portrait, nothing special. If you are wondering like, hey, what portraits would give Paper Heron her true power spikes? What would be the recommended amount of portraits that if I want to get portraits for Paper Heron, then what portraits should I get? And the answer is portrait number 2 and portrait number 5. Because look, it is for this very simple reason that if the number of attacks exceeds 4, then the overflow would deal even more damage than it would naturally do, right? And you want the number of attacks to exceed, in order for this overflow to activate, as high as possible. And the normal amount of attacks that you would need to perform for this overflow to kick in is 3. Now with her portrait number 2, that number is 4, right? I will not go into like the depths of the mathematics surrounding this, right? I would not be able to explain that very well anyways. But it is the case that you want this number to be as high as possible. That is the highest amount of damage output increase you could possibly accomplish. And you see that the portrait number 1 doesn't do this, but portrait number 2 does it. And now, as I just told you, the portrait number 5 does the exact same thing. You can see this here. The maximum number of attacks per round for impromptu incantations is increased to 5, you know. Normally, without a portrait, it would be 3. With portrait number 2, it is 4. And then with portrait 5, it would be 5. And those are the big juicy power spikes that you want to aim for. Now realistically, I can show you portrait number 3 here, you can read it for yourself. It does not increase the number that we want to increase. Portrait number 4 also doesn't do that. It is only portrait 2 and portrait 5 who does that. And that's why those are the very big power spikes you aim for. Now realistically, you will not P5 a character, right? You probably P5'd barrel already. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, realistically, no one goes to P5. And that's why if you want to get portraits for Paper Heron, get 2. I actually recommend you do that. Okay, now back to the impromptu lineups and what you should do. See, look, as I said, we are heading into a double impromptu metagame in version 3.4. And the true thing, like what you have to take away is that in version 3.4 you will play at least one impromptu lineup. Recommended is to do this with Paper Heron. Like I am telling you, she is an absolute must pull and she's completely busted out of the wazoo. So pull for Paper Heron in version 3.4 and build an impromptu lineup around her. How you exactly do this is up to you. It doesn't really matter, honestly, right? Of course, I told you everything about the min-maxing and like the best in slot rosters and here and stuff. We talked about it. But what it boils down to, in the end, what you have to know is play an impromptu lineup based around Paper Heron in version 3.4. How you do this is pretty irrelevant. All that matters is that you play Paper Heron together with other characters that have synergy around the impromptu thing, right? That accumulate inspiration. That is needless to explain. How you construct this lineup doesn't matter. All you need is you need Paper Heron, and you need either 2 Fairy or Kibarina as the sustain. You can even play both of them, right? As I said, like the best in slot roster would contain both of them. Again, it would be Paper Heron, Annalie, 2 Fairy and Kibarina. But again, you can switch this roster around as you want. All you need is Paper Heron. You need 2 Fairy or Kibarina as the sustain. And then what other characters you put in here doesn't matter. It will work, it will be super strong regardless of how you actually establish this roster together. Recommended is to not play Barcelona and Paper Heron together in one. Why? Because they are both main DPS characters. They are very similar in what they do. And yeah, you never want to play 2 main DPSs together for the reason that both of these characters, they want to be used actively a whole bunch because they want to accumulate Moxie as much as possible, as they kind of rely on, if you want to play them correctly, to unlock their ultimates time and time and time again, right? You know how this goes for Barcelona. And Paper Heron is not much different because you want to use her ultimate time and time and time again. First to level up her array to level 3 and then additional times and times and times again to keep that array at level 3 at all times. So yeah, they would, if you play Paper Heron and Barcelona together, if you would do that, it would lead to a little bit of a situation where AP would be a little bit too scarce, right? Get the point? Very easy to understand. So yeah, play Paper Heron with whatever the fuck you want, as long as it is an impromptu character. And you can even get rid of one impromptu character and slide in Mccuria, although I would not recommend you do this at all, unless you play her together with Annalie, which I would also highly, highly recommend. To me personally, if I'm being 100% honest, I would never separate these 2 characters at all, no matter what, right? But you could, and it would be totally fine. Okay, and then, yeah, if you play Paper Heron together with Annalie, then Mccuria becomes a whole lot more viable, because you already have enough accumulation of inspiration, and both Ananli and Mccuria work together with their ultimates to rank up incantations. So you would have a little bit of a double synergy going here with rank up and impromptu. This is very, very, very effective. Is it truly the best in slot? I would, yeah, of course, no, it's factually not. It would be with Caparina and 2 Fairy, right? But if you really want to play both impromptu lineups, yeah, then you can totally fine do this with Mccuria. Maybe it is a little bit better than Regulus in this lineup, maybe it's not, right? It's nitpicking, and we truly don't have to argue about a situation like that. What the key is, if you want to be as efficient as possible in the metagame, then you play these 2 lineups. Wait, let me establish them on my screen. These 2 impromptu lineups here are what I would personally highly recommend you establish both. If you don't, kick out Regulus, put in Caparina, and there you go, right? If you do it like this, you will be totally fine. And yeah, that's about it for the video, guys. So Mccuria, super duper, very viable, right? Must pull Paper Heron, play her together with Ananli is what I would highly recommend you. Then you have, if you only play one impromptu lineup, this is the best thing you can possibly accomplish here. But yeah, if you want to play both, then do it either like this or like this, and you're gonna be totally fine, and you have true power established here no matter what, right? But again, let me answer the question again that, is Paper Heron not viable if I don't play her together with Ananli, or what do I need for Paper Heron? Anything. Really anything flies, as long as it is an impromptu character. Play the impromptu characters together with Paper Heron, and play either Caparina or 2 Fairy in the same lineup, and then it's fine. You can play Aleph with Paper Heron, you can play Voyager with, you can play any impromptu character except for Barcelona together with Paper Heron, and you're gonna be fine regardless, right? Okay, that's it for the video, guys. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.